former CIA operative Mike Baker and counterterrorism and foreign policy expert and editor-in-chief at the Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari. Great to have you both with us here. Mike, something that is just breaking. We're hearing that the peace talks between Saudi Arabia and Israeli are allegedly on hold at this point. We're waiting to get confirmation and more information on that. But how significant is that, if that in fact is the state of affairs at this point?
Well, if it's correct, it's extremely disappointing, but also not particularly surprising. Look, this was one of the key objectives, I guess you'd call it, of this horrific attack, was to scuttle these. Iran views any agreement, any advancement of peace between the Saudis and Israel as completely unacceptable, and they'll do whatever it takes to put an end to it, as we've seen from actions over the weekend.
Lisa, we know this was a very coordinated attack that happened. We saw people coming in from the sky. The rockets were shot. They got through the Israeli borders here. It's unfortunate, but let's talk about, the lack of intel and how this was able to transpire.
Yeah, look, everybody's asking how Israel, the most premier and robust intelligence in the world, didn't catch wind of this happening and plotting and planning right under its noses. And there's multiple reasons for that. And I'm sure there's reasons that we have yet to uncover, and investigations in the future will uncover those. But I think the main issue for us that cannot be dismissed right now is the involvement of the Iran regime. We've seen these skirmishes into Israel by Hamas in the past and other Palestinian Islamic Jihad and others, but we have never seen the complexity, the strategy, the tactics. And we know Iran has its fingerprints all over this. The White House and the mainstream media can sanitize this narrative all they want, but the Iran regime themselves are claiming responsibility. Hamas is thanking the Iran regime for their involvement. We have a timeline as to the past couple of months, the visits that were made between the two sides in meeting. And it wasn't just Hamas, by the way. It was a concerted effort by 4 different terrorist organizations and Iran's regime, of course, not just writing the checks, by the way, but helping in plotting and training and really laying out the groundwork for exactly what took place.
Mike, Lisa mentions the word terrorism. Of course, this is a terrorist attack on Israel. Is this something that more broadly we here in the United States should potentially worry about, seeing an increase in potential terrorist attacks with this unrest in the Middle East, specifically as our southern border is so incredibly porous, and we know people from around the world, including terrorists, are entering our country through there?
No, absolutely, and it's an important point. Look, yeah, as far as where we stand on the alert scale, yes, you have to ratchet up your awareness now, and that's what law enforcement at the local and state and federal level are doing at this point, because we are concerned. And as you pointed out, look, September, we saw 260,000 plus encounters at the border, at the southern border, which was a brand new record. And that's just the encounters. That doesn't count the gotaways. So we have no idea, frankly, despite what the Biden administration may say, we have no idea who's coming across the border. So yes, this is you always, whenever there's something like this, and this will be a prolonged operation by the IDF, by the Israeli military, and by design. What that means is, and what I mean by design is, by Hamas's design, there will be a rising number of Palestinian casualties. They don't care about Palestinian deaths. That is their point to this exercise. That is why they embed themselves with the civilians in the Gaza Strip, because that's what they count on when they engage in something like this. And we're already seeing it. Look, there's nothing like a Hamas slaughter of Israeli civilians to bring out the anti-Semites onto the streets of America, right? And the same people that they couldn't explain the Palestinian cause to save their lives. But, they put on their kefias instead of their Che Guevara T-shirts, and they get out there and they scream "Free Palestine." And it's a useful idiots operation to push a particular narrative. And they know that's going to happen because it's happened for years.
Yeah, it's scary, obviously, to see what happened in Israel and then the way things are on our southern border, and knowing that people on terrorist watch lists have gotten through. I don't want to cause fear for anybody, but that is the reality of the situation at hand. Mike Baker, Lisa Daftari, thank you so much for joining.